related to prisoners of war.
North Korea is confirming it does have the U.S. soldier Travis King, who bolted across the border last month. Correspondent Nancy Cordes.
U.S. officials tell us they've been working to get him out of North Korea and that they're worried about his well-being. But officials in North Korea now say that King sought refuge there willingly.
North Korean state media claim he was fed up with racial discrimination in the U.S. Army. Order your meds on the internet? This could be good news for you.
Amazon says its online pharmacy will automatically apply manufacturer-offered coupons to more than 15 insulin and diabetes medicines. People using Amazon Pharmacy will no longer have to search for and manually enter coupons from the 3 largest insulin makers.
CBS's Jim Krasula. Booksellers, authors, and an antitrust think tank are all urging the government to investigate Amazon's domination of the book market. They've sent a letter to the Justice Department and the FTC claiming a monopoly. They also claim Amazon uses its sway to promote certain titles and bury others. This is CBS News.
If you need to hire, you need Indeed. Their end-to-end hiring system helps you attract, interview, and hire candidates all in the same place. Visit Indeed.com/credit.
Civic Media radio stations, providing your news, conversations, and fun you won't find anywhere else.
With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. While the primary focus of the president's visit yesterday was to promote his economic policies, additional information was provided about airport improvements.
Thanks to infrastructure law, we're providing $23 million to upgrade, modernize Mitchell International Airport, which is going to increase economic activity in Milwaukee.
President Biden's trip to Milwaukee included a visit to an electric vehicle charging station manufacturer, where he addressed post-COVID job market recovery and domestic production. Over 1 million state fairgoers ate over 300,000 cream puffs, with $400,000 raised in the livestock auction, a record. Numbers from the 2023 state fair are in. In addition to attendance breaking 1 million over the 11 days, it's estimated the giant slides were slid down over 100,000 times. With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles.
For a beautiful look that protects and stays clean, choose Dutch Boy Paint from Menards, now all 11% off. Choose quality products that meet your needs and offer advanced adhesion and one-coat coverage in the award-winning Dutch Boy Twist and Pour containers. Get 11% off everything, including the full line of Dutch Boy paints, now at Menards. Good through August 20th, savings are mail-in rebate. Some exclusions apply. See store for details.
Save big money at Menards.
Saturdays and Sundays at 1, don't miss Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, featuring legendary Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Football, life, and fun.
Earl, you've been driving a Yugo. They just gave you a brand new Ferrari with turbo boost. So enjoy it, brother.
Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger. Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Saturdays and Sundays at 1 on the Civic Media Network and on the Civic Media app. The Devil's Advocates Radio.
The entire light beer industry is under attack from the right at this time, apparently, that they no longer have women in bikinis selling the beer.
I would suggest, and this is on the Fox Entertainment Network.
I believe it's the Fox News. Well,
well, I just hope they don't get to the Captain Morgan and Diet Cokes, man. That'd be a sad day.
The Devil's Advocates Radio with Dom and Crute. Weekdays 4 till 6 on your local Civic Media radio station and on the app.
Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what
unrelentlessly positive.
Innovative. Innovative. Whatever.
It indicates. Indicative?
Hey, can we focus?
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin!
Hey, Jane. I have a question for you.
Yes.
Why is cell phone reception so good in Wisconsin?
Why is cell phone reception so good in Wisconsin?
Mm-hmm.
We have lots of towers.
Because even the smallest towns have at least 4 bars.
Oh,
Da-da-da!
rim shot.
It is National Tell a Joke today.
Oh no.
National Tell a Joke Day today. So throughout today's show, we're going to sprinkle in jokes, and we would love to hear your best joke. So as you are listening today, feel free to text in your favorite dad joke, your favorite pun.
Just keep
it clean. I mean, it could be a little dirty, but
there's no swears.
No swears. Use your discretion. 844-967-2789. Yes, it is. It is so unfortunate because Greg Bach is not here today.
I know.
To enjoy National Tell a Joke Day.
Oh, some of these would give him
with
pain,
us.
I think.
Probably.
Yeah.
Probably.
Yeah.
But maybe I'll bust out some of the jokes I had in my stand up at one point. And luckily it's radio, so I won't be able to hear no one laugh. But to get to the topic to start today, what responsibility do businesses have when it comes to hosting or not hosting controversial organizations or groups? Is it worth boycotting businesses when they choose to host controversial groups? Is it worth doxing might be a strong word, but outing them when they choose not, outing people who work for those organizations when they choose not to? Because this is a story from last week, but it's kind of ongoing, that Moms for Liberty, which we have talked about, it's a national group with multiple chapters in Wisconsin. It has been designated a hate group by Southern Poverty Law Center. Some people contend that is a bad or false categorization. But they were planning multiple events, or are planning multiple events, to coincide with the RNC debate
next week.
And they said their town hall event was canceled, according to them, according to Moms for Liberty, because the fight for parental rights is so controversial. So this has kind of been an ongoing story of where are they going, where are they not going. But the group had planned a town hall with presidential candidates for 10 a.m. August 23rd. So that's the morning of the debate next week. And there was confusion about where the event was going to be located. And a spokesperson for Moms for Liberty told the Journal-Sentinel last week that the event would be at the Italian Community Center.
The ICC.
The ICC, which is owned by Barlotta, the restaurant group.
Right.
And then on Saturday, a spokesperson from Barlotta said there was no event booked for August 23rd at the center, and that there will be not be an event for Moms for Liberty at the Italian Community Center. On Monday, Moms for Liberty said the Italian Community Center canceled their event. Now, there's also other events happening confirmed at the Pfister. At one point, people were saying it was going to happen at the St. Kate. Both the Pfister and the St. Kate in Milwaukee, two of the nicest hotels in Milwaukee, both owned by the Marcus Group, which owns tons of stuff,
Lots of stuff.
including, like the Marcus Theaters, which you've probably attended. And that one, someone from the Marcus Group has confirmed that it is at the Pfister. It is not the St. Kate. And there's one group that is protesting, which I think is within their right. But there was also a Reddit thread that started saying, since Marcus is okay hosting Moms for Liberty at the Pfister, should you want to choose an alternative hotel, water park, restaurant, or movie theater instead of one owned by Marcus in the future? Their entire lineup is listed on their site. And on the flip side of that, on the other side of that coin, Wisconsin Right Now wrote up about the ICC canceling the event and basically outed the woman who is the president, not outed, but put her name out there.
Fingered her.
And, Wisconsin Right Now has some followers who may take it into their own hands to
take it further.
Yeah, take it further. But they started retweeting things that this woman, who is the president of the Italian Community Center, has tweeted in the past. Clearly, this woman is anti-Trump ish. But the question becomes, in these situations when these groups, book places because they believe that they have a right to assemble and everything. What responsibility is it on the companies that have event spaces to say, no,
we don't want you.
We don't want you. And also, but on this, like when they do, because they're a business and that's part of their business model, and it doesn't necessarily mean they support those groups, is it fair to protest and boycott them? 844-967-2789. What do you think? I mean, as much as you can disagree with Moms for Liberty, should they just not be allowed to host their events anywhere because people disagree with them? I don't know. 844-967-2789. What do you think, Jane?
It's really complicated because, again, free enterprise, right? They're privately held companies. If you want to host this group because you need the money or whatever, this is how you run your business, you should certainly be entitled to do that. At the same time, we have the right to protest peacefully. But all this targeting and all this fingering people and that's scary to me. Because we've already seen over the last 5 years people who have taken things into their own hands and committed violence.
Yeah.
And that's a very real consideration these days.
So you mean like you're talking about more of Wisconsin right now, highlighting the president of the ICC?
The ICC, absolutely. I think that's really irresponsible. Look at what happened to those 2 election workers in Georgia. Their lives were destroyed.
And I mean, and what they're trying to point out is that this woman is clearly biased, but like, isn't that within her right?
And don't we all have bias?
If that's her job and she won't lose her job for turning down an event, because ultimately if everything comes back to the bottom line of my job, this is how I'm judged by doing my job. And mostly if you are an event space, you need to book events and get revenue for hosting those events. And so if ICC has enough demand that she felt like it was within their right to not host that committee, even if she did it for her own political reasons, or because apparently they canceled they originally took the deposit and then they canceled it after the Journal Sentinel article was printed. So maybe they wanted to avoid the protests, which then is again within people's rights to protest. But ultimately, like, where do you draw the line on this stuff? As far as businesses need to make money, and
it's up to their discretion.
Like, but to play the other side of that, how extreme does the group need to be? Because I'm not sure the Pfister would be taking a Nazi group.
Proud Boys.
So I don't know. I just think it's local. It's a local issue here. And it's something that I think Milwaukee specifically with the convention next year, how many places are you going to boycott? How many places that are trying to take advantage of the situation of 50,000 people descending upon the city, looking for spaces to host parties, host panels, host all these different town meetings, town halls. And so every place that hosts a group that you don't agree with, you're going to boycott?
It's going to be very time consuming. It is. You better clear your calendar.
And so would love to hear from you as far as where is the line when it comes to the responsibility of businesses to either take all groups, use their discretion, and on the flip side, when they do use their discretion, people wanting to protest and boycott those businesses. 844-967-2789. Because, it's are we, for everyone who's still upset about the RNC coming at all, are you just going to never go to the Wisconsin Center again?
Ever? And that's your form of protest?
And, especially something with the Marcus Group. The Marcus Group does a lot. They give a lot of money away. They're a big part of the Milwaukee community.
For sure.
And so does that count for anything? Or is it just because of this one thing that you're now, at least according to this Reddit thread, people are saying, jumping on the bandwagon as far as like, I hate that company. Blah, 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 blah. All right. Well,
do that sound once more. Oh, thank you. I love that.
I sound like a Muppet. We would love to hear from you on this topic and your thoughts on more, specifically maybe the Moms for Liberty and them hosting their events in Milwaukee this coming week over the next year. But more generally, knowing that this is coming ahead of us in a year from now when the RNC comes to Milwaukee, what responsibility and discretion should businesses be using when it comes to who they let rent out their space? 844-967-2789.
And don't forget, it is National Joke Day.
Yes.
So if you have a joke, you can text it in. You can call it in. 844-967-2789.
We'll come back with a joke, either mine or a caller's. So if you got one, call now. This is As Goes Wisconsin. We'll be right back.
You don't know me, don't ignore me. You don't know me there, you just shut me out. You don't know me, don't ignore me. If you had your way, you just shut me out. Make me go away. You don't know me, don't ignore me. You don't want me there, you just shut me out. If you don't know me, don't ignore me. If you went your way, you just shut me out. Make me go away. Make me go away. Make me go away.
I'm Captain Ann Maxon with the Wisconsin State Patrol. Safety on our highways is a team effort. Every day, our troopers and inspectors focus on keeping people and commerce moving safely. Drivers can do their part to prevent crashes and needless tragedies by remembering two simple things. Buckle up, phones down. Thanks for helping us move towards zero deaths on Wisconsin roads.
A safety message sponsored by the U.S. and Wisconsin DOTs.
Talking to your kids about the dangers of vaping can be hard. Getting them to listen to hot gossip is easy. So here's some drama you could share with your kid. Dude, did you hear about Cassie and Jake? No, but did you hear that vaping can cause irreversible lung damage and nicotine affects brain development? Nuh-uh. You don't need to gossip if you want to have an open conversation about vaping. So if you want to get tips on when and how to talk to your kids, visit talkaboutvaping.org. Brought to you by the American Lung Association and the Ad Council.
You know him as the nose tackle for the green and gold, 1993 to 1999, and again 2001 to 2003. 125 games, 292 tackles, 7 sacks, and a Super Bowl ring. But there's more to life than stats, and there's more to life than football. You're about to find out. Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, featuring Packers legend Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Saturday and Sunday at 1 on Civic Media and the Civic Media app.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Mainly clear skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 81. Winds out of the southwest 8 to 15 miles an hour. Scattered thunderstorms likely tonight. Lows dip down to about 63. Cloudy skies. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times tomorrow. Scattered thunderstorms likely. Highs level off around 73. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 72.
Hit the road, Jack. Don't you come back no more, no more, no more, no more. Hit the road, Jack. And don't you come back no more.
What you say?
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Metnair. It is National Tell-A-Joke Day. And I think we got someone who has a joke.
We do, Gary from Sussex. Good morning, Gary. We are so ready for your joke.
Well,
it's really not so much a joke. It's a true story, and it's really sad. So my wife and I wanted to join our church, and our pastor said, well, if you want to join the church, you have to show restraint and willpower. And he said to us, he said, you cannot make whippy at all for 1 month. My wife and I looked at each other and we said, oh my gosh, you know. Then there's another couple that was there that was married 20 years. And the pastor said the same thing to them. You cannot make whippy at all for 1 month. And they said, oh man, that's going to be tough. Then there was another couple there that just got married last week. And they said, oh my gosh, we want to join the church so bad, but you know, this is going to be very difficult, but we're going to try. So all three couples, we went off for a month. We came back, and the pastor said, well, Gary and Beth, how did you guys do? Because we've been married for 50 years. And we said, no problem at all, Pastor. We're great. He said, okay, you can join the church. Then he asked the other couple that was married 20 years, and they said, oh, man, we struggled. But we did it for 30 days. We withheld, you know, making love. And then all of a sudden he said, okay, you can join the church too. The last couple that was only married for 1 week, they said, oh, Pastor, we made it for an hour, and I'm sorry. What happened was my wife had a can of corn in her hand, and she dropped it on the floor, and I looked at her and I said, I can't stand it. I just grabbed it. We made mad, passionate love right there. And they said, well, you can't join the church. And they said, yeah, that's not the only problem. We can't go back to the supermarket anymore either.
Good payoff. Good payoff, Gary.
A nice one, Gary.
Make whoopee. Thanks for the joke, Gary. If you have a joke for us today, feel free to text it in, call it in. We will be doing this the whole day. I have some up my sleeve.
That is a different skill set. I
just
don't
remembering jokes.
Remembering jokes. I don't remember jokes.
I don't really. I have one that I'm going to tell later in the show that I've known. The one that I've stuck with since I was a kid. As a kid, I feel like I knew more jokes.
The simple,
yeah,
you know, snowman jokes and reindeer jokes.
But now less so. Then we got one more from Josh Egan on the YouTube live stream. You can always watch us on YouTube or Facebook or Twitter, along with listen to us at As Goes Wisconsin. When two vegans get in an argument, is it still called a beef?
Oh, I got to find a rim shot. Another one, texter from the 414, my favorite dad joke. I'll try and do my best. How deep is a frog pond? Knee deep. Knee deep.
Knee deep.
Knee deep.
Got it.
Knee deep.
All right. Well, keep those coming. We are going to do that the whole day because this show is supposed to be funny.
It's National Joke
Even
Day.
though sometimes it's not. The topic at hand, though, is this debate over letting the Moms for Liberty groups in Wisconsin host events at different venues, and then the reaction to those venues for running their business and letting them have their events there. And is it not up to the discretion of the business? Do they deserve to be boycotted or protested if they do let groups like that have their events there? Do they deserve to get scorned from, let's say in this example, from the right if they choose not to? Or is this just business as usual and you should be protesting the groups if you disagree with the groups rather than the businesses? We have a comment from Joe McClear, our friend. Everyone is going to make their own personal determination when an organization goes too far and when it's not okay for another organization to host them. There will always be a give and take in this area, but Moms for Liberty of all groups has no standing to complain about this. Scarlett Johnson, a very prominent and vocal Wisconsin Moms for Liberty member, notoriously went scorched earth on Target for simply having a pride section during Pride Month. Goose gander, something, something.
That's not a bad point.
That's true. It's like, oh, oops, I can protest you,
but you can't
protest at me because this is just parental rights.
Yeah.
But that's where I come back to this. I feel like the ability that because what are you going to do? I mean, basically you can be mad at the Common Council and Chevy Johnson and David Crowley, who are all Democrats who voted to have the RNC come. But now that they're coming, are you really going to boycott every business that tries to take advantage of the situation? I just don't think that's
realistic?
Well, or even fair. Like, if some of these businesses are in the situation where like they're doing well enough that they can stick by their political beliefs and they don't want to host people, great. But like, I don't know if you can really begrudge them for like, give me your money. But get your deposit up front so they can not pay you later.
844-967-2789. Beverly from Richland Center. Good morning, Beverly. What do you think? We got about a minute and a half.
I think we've got every right and responsibility to boycott certain groups.
The groups or the business?
Like Moms, well, even like for Moms for Justice, they are promoting such hate. Any business that's willing to allow them in, I think we have a right and a responsibility to fight against that. Now, we don't have a lot of tools to use. We've got the rule of law, we've got voting, and we've got our voices and our feet to stand up against things that we think are wrong. And so I think using our voices and our feet is something we have to do.
All right. So you think it's fair game that that we protest the groups like the Pfister?
Yeah.
Like, okay. All right. And
thanks a lot, Beverly.
Thanks for the call, Beverly. And I think for me personally, I'm not a Moms for Liberty fan.
I'm not either.
But it's just not the last story of this that we're going to hear. And so I'm interested to hear from you. I think we just had a caller who might have let go. Call back if you can, because we will take it on the other side of the break. 844-967-2789 if you have thoughts about this. But then we also have some good, the bad, and the throttling. And then we're also going to talk about the Rebecca Bradley Wikipedia story before the end of the hour. So stay with us. Tell us your jokes. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
You can't mean that. Don't you come back. Oh, nah, baby.
Your home of the Earl Ingram Show. Weekday mornings from 8 till 10 on The Shaw. 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK.
CBS News Brief. CBS News has learned negotiations are underway for former President Trump to surrender in Georgia next week after he was hit with racketeering charges. CBS's Nicole Killian.
Logistics are still being worked out, but we now know that all of the defendants, including the former president, are expected to be processed at the county jail not far from here, and they can surrender at any time.
President Biden and the First Lady will visit fire-ravaged Maui Monday. CBS's Nancy Cordes.
White House officials have struggled over the past few days to try to figure out how they could both fit this into his schedule, because it's obviously a very long trip, but also do it without interfering with the ongoing recovery efforts.
Ukrainian prisoners of war tell the BBC they were abused physically and mentally by guards at a Russian prison.
They beat us in the kidneys, in the ribs, with hammers and batons.
CBS News Brief. I'm Deborah Rodriguez.
With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles. The dream of Foxconn is no longer alive in Green Bay and Eau Claire. After massively scaling back Racine County plans, the company has announced they're selling off its properties in Green Bay and Eau Claire. Foxconn initially aimed to establish multiple regional centers in the state, but that didn't happen. Also not happening, 13,000 jobs in southeastern Wisconsin initially promised. Home sales in the area declined by more than 19% in July compared to the same period last year.
That's despite robust buyer demand. The Greater Milwaukee Association of Realtors says the challenge of the market stems from insufficient housing supply due to limited new construction. The realtors say that is leading to a cycle where homeowners are unable to move, affecting potential downsizers, young families, and first-time buyers. Pete Schwaba, Civic Media News.
With news on WAUK The Shaw, I'm Stuart J. Waddles.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
Wisconsin's manner of funding local government is nearly singular in the country.
That cheese stands alone, if you will. It hasn't been working in Milwaukee. It hasn't been working in Rhinelander. It hasn't been working in La Crosse, Green Bay, Madison, Kenosha, Racine. I don't care what you pick. It ain't working.
The Maggie Dawn Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
Hi, we're the Goo Goo Dolls. We're fortunate that our daughters have what they need to grow and learn. But that isn't the case for nearly 13 million kids in the U.S. that struggle with hunger.
Childhood hunger is a heartbreaking reality that Feeding America is working to change. Each year, the Feeding America network of food banks rescues billions of pounds of good food that would have gone to waste and provides it to families and children in need.
You can help kids in need in your community by visiting feedingamerica.org.
Brought to you by Feeding America and the Ad Council.
My name is Teresa Barber. I was in the United States Navy and I served overseas in the Middle East and Africa. Early on in my career, I had a commander that taught our suicide prevention training, and the very next day he took his own life. 90% of suicide attempts involving a gun are fatal. My way of continuing my service is to help protect my community by being a responsible gun owner and by storing firearms safely. Store all your guns securely. Help stop suicide.
Brought to you by End Family Fire and the Ad Council.
Your hometown radio, refreshed, keeping you informed, entertained, and connected on the Civic Media Network, civicmedia.us.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. We are taking your jokes all day.
National Joke Day.
Because it's National Telejoke Day.
Oh, National Telejoke.
Because because there's so many national days, I'm sure there's also a National Joke Day. So maybe we'll get to do this again before too long, because this is fun.
It is.
So if you have jokes that are clean enough to say on air, text them in, call them in. We will be taking them all day. And it sounds like our next caller has both an opinion and a joke. Price, what do you got?
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Quick thing on the Moms for Liberty and the difference between them and kind of the Republican convention is allegedly there's still Republicans that still have not a single-minded view of basically erasing a marginalized population.
Mhm.
Moms for Liberty and Wisconsin Institute for Liberty and Law, which promotes, it really does. It promotes violence. And down here in Texas, there was a bakery that just put up a pride flag, and they got flamed, and their business got affected. So people came together and supported them. But that happens a lot down here, where something happens to support the gay community or trans community or whatever, they really get flamed by the right side. Same thing with Will and Keel and all that kind of stuff. So that's the difference between the bigger party coming. I'd like to think anyway, of the bigger Republican Party coming, because there's got to be, hopefully Republicans that are against that kind of thing. Anyway.
So do you feel like, just to go back, because hold on your joke, because I know you get one, but do you think it's fair game to boycott the business along with the group itself?
Well, honestly, fair play, that's the tactic of Moms for Liberty, is they will go after anyone who's puts up a pride flag. They'll go after schools that promote literal safe spaces. Down here, two members of Moms for Liberty went into the library after hours when it was closed, and were pulling books from shelves. It's crazy. So,
aren't you just so happy that your mom's not one of these moms? I'm like, thanks.
I'm so happy.
Oh my gosh.
Look, my mom's I'm an FDR family from like way back. So that came from my grandpa, that goes through my mom, that goes through me. I'm a New Deal guy. But just on that real quick before I get to my joke, when John's on, can you ask him if he talked to these people about like othering, like when he did his thing, like minorities, gay people and all that? Because I watched the video and it really opened up my eyes. The only thing that I think could be the difference would be like, what's those people's opinions on minorities?
Totally. Did you text in that question last week?
That was me, yeah.
Yeah, so I got that flag to ask him, so I will certainly ask him later today. But now we want to hear your joke.
Okay, I'll tear it down. So, okay, this is an up north joke because I grew up close to UP. So Ole and Lena go to the air show, and there's a helicopter. It says Joe Wright helicopter. You'll be scared. And Ole says, "Die, not good. Be scared of this helicopter ride." The guy says, "Oh yeah." He says, "Yeah." So he says, "Okay, if you, I'll take you for a ride. If you don't make a peep, I'll give you your money back." And Ole says, "Okay, that sounds good. Let's go, Lena." So a guy gets on the helicopter takes off. He starts doing spins. He goes upside down. He's twisting and turning. And he flies down and he lands the helicopter. He says, "Oh, I got to give it up for you, Ole. I thought for sure that you get scared." And Ole says, "Yeah, I almost said something when Lena fell out, but I kept it cool."
Oh, you love those Ole and Lena jokes.
Oh, nice. Thanks for the call. Thanks for both your opinion and the joke, Price. And we will certainly ask John Russell that later. As a reminder, John Russell, our friend from Appalachia, Ohio, is going to be joining us at 11:30 today because he recently went to a Trump rally.
Yes.
And had a very sincere conversation. So it's like the inverse of a Jordan Klepper video. And I'm so excited to hear what he learned from that. And also we will link, obviously, the video from that he did along with a more perfect union if you want to go ahead and watch that later. But really looking forward to that conversation. We got more jokes?
We have more jokes.
All right.
Tom from LA is joining us. Good morning, Tom.
Good morning, ladies. First off, we the people ultimately are the government, and we must never forget that. And we need to get money out of politics. And my joke would be, what happened to the Wisconsin people that paid so much of their hard-working money towards their taxes? What happened to them?
I don't know. What happened to them, Tom?
They got Foxconned.
Oh, what a bump. I'm glad you mentioned that,
Not
though.
good, but
Hey, I'm glad you mentioned that, though, Tom, because Foxconn just put up their innovation center buildings in downtown Green Bay, and there's another one, too. They're up for sale now.
They're up for sale.
Wah, wah, wah.
Well, then someone will make some money.
Foxconn.
That Foxconn. Thank you, Tom. That's a good one.
844-967-2789. You can call and or text if you want to chime in on this Moms for Liberty issue. If you have a joke you would like to share, please let us know. From the 262 Moms for Liberty issue, private and particularly small businesses need to do whatever they need to do to keep afloat, at least within the boundaries of the law. I'm not going to stop seeing movies at Marcus Theaters just because their corporation hosted Moms for Liberty. On the flip side, I certainly hope they are protesting the message of Moms for Liberty.
And they did say, let me see if I can get that quote. This was their quote when asked, the Marcus Group, when asked about Moms for Liberty being at the Pfister. As a hotel and meeting venue, we accommodate guests from a wide range of backgrounds and viewpoints. Providing such accommodations should not be seen as a support for any particular set of beliefs, which is pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
But for now, yes, if you have more opinions on that, we will certainly take them. But for now, I was going to move on to a couple good, bad, and throttling headlines happening today, or at least I saw today. This first one is from Up North News in response to President Biden was here yesterday.
Yes.
We did not get to go.
We did not.
I did get invited, which was very cool.
You're on the list.
Mike, husband Mike, also graciously said that I could take you.
Oh.
And so, because I told him about our conversation, I was like, would you have wanted to go? And he goes, yeah. And then he said, but like, she probably, I can't remember if he offered or if I said, because Jane was wondering. He goes, oh, no, you could take Jane.
Oh, that's sweet. Of course, then, I would have pulled out the I'm old card.
Yeah, I have fewer chances to do this.
I could drop dead before this next opportunity comes up. No guilt involved.
Yes, but 1 year ago today, President Biden signed the Inflation Reduction Act into law, lowering health care and prescription drug prices for Americans. And in Up North News's newsletter this morning, they outlined a couple different ways that the Inflation Reduction Act helped Wisconsin specifically. 43,000 Wisconsinites have kept their health insurance thanks to the extension of subsidies that made premiums more affordable. Another 22,000 are saving money on their premiums thanks to the extension of those subsidies. 32,000 Wisconsinites on Medicare who use insulin now pay no more than $35 a month.
Huge.
Which is huge for their prescription, which saves about $628 a year. And 950,000 Wisconsin seniors are able to get the shingles vaccine for free. So but that was some good news.
That is good news.
Good things that have happened.
For sure.
The bad, and this kind of goes with our conversation from Monday when we talked to Brian Sampson and Isaac Hoffman about homelessness in La Crosse. But this is not just a La Crosse thing.
No.
Homelessness is surging in America, period. The number of people experiencing homelessness in the U.S. has increased 11% so far this year.
Wow.
Over 2022.
Wow.
And it's the biggest year. It's the biggest jump by far, equivalent to government records beginning in 2007. So this is a huge jump, a fairly unprecedented jump. And nonprofit, I think this is similar to what both Brian and Isaac told us on Monday.
Yes.
It is specific, what's in La Crosse, but everywhere, nonprofits and government agencies are saying it's attributed to the lack of affordable housing and rental units and the opioid crisis. And I got to say, this is a reminder that you never know who's listening to the show and also a reminder to anyone who's listening, always feel free to reach out to us.
Yeah, for sure.
Because it always, unless you have complaints, then
send them to Greg.
Then it doesn't feel good.
Send them to Greg Bach. No,
but largely when we hear from you, and because we don't really know who's listening, how many people are always listening, where they're listening from. But I got an email last night from someone who, was thankful that we talked about this on Monday and specifically talked about the stigma and the assumptions of how people become homeless, because he said he lived in his car for 6 months not because he couldn't afford an apartment, but because he didn't have enough credit.
And he had to have a longer credit
history. He had to have a longer
history.
credit line for someone to be able to take a risk on him to rent to him. And once he had enough credit, he got an apartment. But it's just those things. It's it's not a moral failing. It's lack of a familial safety net, or even friends that it's stuff that you were talking about this morning. When you're 12, you have a root canal and it's $1,200, and you're like, I don't have that.
I don't have $1,200, and I don't have any friends who have $1,200.
And so for those, those of us who have a family member who you pay them back or whatever, and it's and then you just don't think about it. But not everyone has that.
Many people don't have that.
So
and I think too, and we've talked about this before, we attribute wealth with morality and poverty with immorality.
Mm-hmm.
And that's not accurate. It's just not.
No.
Just because you're rich doesn't mean you're a good person, and just because you're poor doesn't mean you're a bad person.
I mean, just look at the Tuohys.
Oh man, oof.
That is a mess.
Oh boy, and is Mr. Tuohy lucky that they had that guy portray him in that movie?
By Tim McGraw?
Yeah, because he doesn't look anything like that.
He does not look anything like Tim McGraw. And she doesn't really look anything like Sandra Bullock either.
No.
If you don't know what we're talking about, Michael Orr, who was the titular character in The Blind Side, there's a lot of drama going on this week as far as him claiming that they put him in a conservatorship.
They never adopted him.
Well, and that's
because he was 18.
Because he was 18. But that never adopting someone and treating them as your own is very different than, hey, we're going to put you in a conservatorship
so we can control your money.
Which we all have. We followed the saga of Britney Spears and how abusive her parents were with her finances, with the controlling her life, and how abusive conservatorships can be. That this was a man who was not disabled.
Right.
And was in no way needed to be in a conservatorship at all. But that's a different story. We can talk about maybe that later this week. And then finally, the throttling. Elon Musk. This is another one we have to add to the list of how much do we actually want to cover him, because he's in the news all the time.
I know.
Elon Musk's X, formerly known as Twitter, has been throttling traffic to websites he dislikes.
Oh, there's a shocker.
So Twitter, I'm still calling it Twitter.
I am too. Come after me, Elmo.
Added a 5-second delay when users clicked on links to the New York Times, Facebook, and other sites Musk has attacked in the back. I'm sure NPR was in there. And, why does that matter? Maybe if you're in parts of Wisconsin, you're very used to delays because the reception is actually very bad in most of Wisconsin,
Right.
instead of like my joke. But, people are impatient. And so are they going to wait the 5 seconds, or are they just going to go back to Twitter if the thing that you're clicking on isn't going to load? And so that can cause a huge traffic plunge for these websites that he's trying to be a little petty against. But the Washington Post published a story yesterday about it, and then X began removing the delays on some of the sites.
Oh, no kidding.
So
well.
So if you experienced any of that yesterday, Twitter's been weird. Like, I feel like I've been tweeting stuff, and like I tweeted out my Wisconsin State Fair video, which it was received very well at other platforms. I don't think I got a single like on it on Twitter. Not that matters, but it's like there's something going on over there.
There is something going on. We're going to come back with a joke, by the way.
All right, we're coming back with a joke. If you have a joke, 844-967-2789. Call, text. We'll read it as long as it's clean. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Ron had a tax problem he just couldn't handle on his own.
I owed the IRS taxes for over 5 years, but I didn't have any money to pay the taxes.
Those years cost him dearly.
Most of it was fees and interest. It was horrible.
Ron finally called in the pros.
I called Optima Tax Relief, and boy, am I happy I did.
The leading tax resolution firm, Optima, is A+ rated by the Better Business Bureau. They've resolved over $1 billion for their clients. Ron was overjoyed.
They settled my account with IRS. I was ecstatic. They are a lifesaver. They are. I am so happy.
Take Ron's advice and call Optima now for a free consultation.
Yeah, don't do like I did and wait. Call Optima Tax Relief. Do it now. You'll be ecstatic like me.
Call 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460. 800-343-6460.
Optima Tax Relief.
Testimonial from an actual client. Some restrictions apply. For complete details, please visit OptimaTaxRelief.com.
It's summertime in Wisconsin, and whatever the weather, it will impact you and your plans.
Should I water the garden? Will our event be rained out? Count on your local Civic Media radio station for in-depth details and the most up-to-date forecast.
Temperatures are rising into the mid and upper 70s under sunny skies.
It's your weather and more for your part of Wisconsin.
On your local Civic Media radio station and streaming on the Civic Media app.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Mainly sunny skies this afternoon with daytime highs approaching 81. Southwesterly winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Scattered thunderstorms likely tonight. Lows level off around 63. Cloudy skies expected. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times tomorrow. Scattered thunderstorms likely. High temperatures reach up to 73.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair. And it's National Tell-A-Joke Day, so we are having fun all day hearing your jokes.
Absolutely.
Maybe having some of our own jokes, but sprinkling them throughout today's show. What do we got in the text line, Jane?
From the 715. Oh, it's a classic. What is green and sings, Kristen Bry?
The Grinch at Christmas?
Elvis Parsley.
Oh.
Hello. From the 608. Did you ever notice when you see geese flying south in a V that one line is longer than the other? Do you know why?
I don't.
There are more geese in that line.
Ah.
And from the 262, this is from Jude or Judy in East Troy. This is funny to me. If I ever go missing, I want my picture on a 40-ounce beer rather than a milk carton because I want the fun people to be the ones who find me.
Nice. That's just facts. That's not even a joke. The first one, the V1, reminds me of this one. What's the difference between an Indian and an African elephant?
I don't know.
One's an elephant.
Groner. Groner.
Oh.
John from the Falls also checking in on the text line. I just like the joke of the day idea. Life gets pretty heavy sometimes.
Maybe we should keep this.
That's great.
Maybe, I don't know, we'll pick a day of the week where we just have people tell us jokes.
Call in with your jokes.
Yeah.
Text in with your jokes. That's always good.
It's always fun. Well, this kind of feels like a joke, this story.
It really does.
And it's so trivial. And sometimes it's like, why is this a news story? But it's also kind of fun. So I do not have, I'm waiting for what threshold I have to pass to get my own Wikipedia page. But I would never, ever create my own Wikipedia page. And you're not supposed to, right?
No, you're not.
You're not supposed to edit it yourself. Your friends and family aren't supposed to edit it, or it is supposed to be something that is a crowdsourced independent thing. So it's because I feel like that's why I say I would never do it, because I also feel like that is a sign that you have become of public notoriety enough that someone felt like
you deserve
a page. But sometimes we hear these stories that things get updated on Wikipedia that are sometimes a joke. They get taken down pretty quickly, but because they're a living document as far as people being able to crowdsource and add and edit. But one of the main tenets is specifically that you are not supposed to edit your own page.
If the page is if it's a Kristen Bry page, Kristen cannot go in and edit stuff if someone puts something in there that you don't like.
And beyond not supposed to be that you're not supposed to do that as far as the terms of use from Wikipedia. Also, it's just a little tacky.
Well, yes.
But I also get that it's got to,
it's got to sting.
Grind your gears.
Yep, it's got to sting.
When you're a public person and you feel wronged by the information that people are sharing about you, whether you think it's misrepresentational.
Not accurate.
Misrepresentative.
Misrepresentational, I think.
Is that okay?
We'll go with that.
So this week, Wisconsin's muckraker, Daniel Bice from Milwaukee Journal-Sentinel, love him or hate him, did a deep dive on the fact that Justice Rebecca Bradley, who is very conservative, has been quietly editing her own Wikipedia page.
Oh.
Which is funny because, you'd think, I tend to think that people who are on Wikipedia a lot editing things, that's what they do. And she has a whole job of stuff that she should be focused on. But turns out she has enough time that she's been having to make some changes on her Wikipedia biography and was
tweaking
tweaking a couple things. And someone finally realized she was doing it and tweeted out that they, basically called her on it. And so when Dan Bice reached out to her to ask to confirm or deny, her response was, "Liberal media has distorted my record since the beginning of my judicial career, and I refuse to let false accusations go unchecked. On my Wikipedia page, I added excerpts from actual opinions and removed dishonest information about my background." So there was a couple different things. One was when she notoriously, during oral arguments during the stay-at-home orders, compared the state's stay-at-home orders to the internment of Japanese Americans during World War II. And she did not write that in her actual statement. And so she went back and took that, what her oral arguments were, off of her Wikipedia page, even though that was what really made the news at that time.
And she did say it.
Oh, yeah, she said it.
Okay.
She didn't write it, but she said it.
She said it. So it's a quote.
And that got a lot of attention because George Takei, who was in a Japanese American internment camp when he was 5 to 9, and also Star Trek fame. It has a lot of Twitter followers. Called her on it. And so there was a couple different things. She also revised the description of her majority opinion in the 2021 redistricting case. And and then there was one more. What was the other one? I can't find what the last one was. But now her page has been flagged on Wikipedia's conflict of interest notice board.
Wow.
So she's on notice for doing this.
Oh.
Which is hilarious because now she being on notice, I don't think she has the standing to combat the dozens of people who have now gone to her Wikipedia page since the Journal Sentinel article to not only edit the things that she had, edit back the things that she had changed, but also add some more stuff. And so that's opened a little bit of a can of worms for herself.
Should have left it alone.
But it's funny because I noticed the same thing when I made a video about Derek Van Orden's situation.
Mm-hmm.
And I went to his Wikipedia page and someone already because, especially as you're a bigger figure, your page is longer, there's more stuff to put, but there's always the above section that is kind of the brief summary of who this person is and notable things about them. And then everything underneath is early childhood, education, career, personal, controversies, the subheadings. In his top summary bio, there's already the screamed at teenagers.
While
I bet he wished he could edit that.
I bet he does too. Although it's a badge of honor if you're Derek Van Orden.
Maybe.
He's not going to take crap from anybody, Kristen, not even a bunch of teenagers, because he's tough.
All right. Well, we got to take a break for the top of the hour news. Coming up in the next hour, we have John Russell coming in at 11:30. Peter Burress from Wisconsin Conservation Voters is here to talk about the PFAS money where's it going to go? Now that we have $125 million for it, and we still want to take your jokes. So text them in, call them in, 844-967-2789. And we'll be back in a moment. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
But I can't trace time.
It's so hot. Wait, now it's going to rain? It is summer in Wisconsin.
As much as we love it, we love to hate it too. Find a forecast you can count on along with the in-depth details you need, only from the Civic Media Weather Team.
These extended conditions have led us into a flash drought. Sitting in these above average temperatures with minimal rain has swiftly altered the local climate.
Your weather and more for your part of Wisconsin.
On your local Civic Media radio station and streaming on the Civic Media app.
You're listening to a radio station that's part of the Civic Media Network. Find more at civicmedia.us. Your home for local news, weather, and sports across the airwaves and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
You're listening to The Shaw, WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266DR Waukesha, and always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is CBS News on the Hour, presented by Indeed.com.
I'm Steve Kathan. President Biden plans to go to Maui on Monday to see wildfire damage firsthand. White House correspondent Nancy Cordes.
White House officials have struggled over
That's what we like to do on this show. Find the comedy gold.
I just like non-fungible as a word.
It is a good word.
It's a wonderful, it just has a good mouthfeel.
La-di-da, la-di-da, la-la.
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristen Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin! Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to the second hour, the 11 o'clock hour of As Goes Wisconsin on this Wednesday, August 16th. We are taking your jokes all day because it is National Tell a Joke Day. So if you have any good dad jokes,
any good
jokes.
bad jokes. We don't discriminate.
We don't discriminate unless there's a curse word in it, and then we can't read it.
No naughties.
But yes, we will be reading those throughout the rest of this hour, and maybe even bringing it back for a recurring segment. But a more serious topic that we're going to cover in the first half hour of our show this hour is PFAS. PFAS. What do you say, Peter?
Tomato, potato.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay. But I just wanted to, in the last 24 hours, I did a Google News search for headlines, and all I searched was PFAS, Wisconsin. And sometimes you get 0 hits if you put the time limit on for the last 24 hours. WPR, Stella wells have some of the highest levels of PFAS in the U.S. Wisconsin Examiner, nearly 50 residences in the town of Stella under PFAS health advisories. WSAU, rural Oneida County residents sue over PFAS contamination. Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, PFAS likely affecting water at 2 summer camps near Rhinelander. And that's not even all of them. There's 2 pages worth just in the last 24 hours of headlines and stories in Wisconsin alone about forever chemicals. So this has become something that I think maybe even a couple years ago, the average person didn't really know what they were. And now everyone hears about them a lot. They're affecting people all across the state, all across the country. And thankfully, in our last budget, we actually got some money to address it. Now, what does that money do? That's what our guest for this half hour, Peter Burress, who is the government affairs manager of the Wisconsin Conservation Voters, which is a nonpartisan organization dedicated to promoting environmental conservation policies, is here in person visiting his alma mater, Carroll University. And we're so happy to have you, Peter.
Thanks for having me, Kristen.
So let's start with the money that has been passed. So we got they're in this budget magically between Republicans and Democrats, $125 million that is going to go towards PFAS cleanup. Is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah, well, I think the key piece here is it's a little bit to be determined.
Okay.
So, and also the key piece here is that we are where we are because of the folks that have been advocating for addressing this issue for years and years. So while PFAS is new to a lot of folks in Wisconsin, and Wisconsinites are just beginning to learn about their own communities and levels of detections in their own communities. Some communities across Wisconsin, I'm thinking about Marinette, Peshtigo, Campbell, they've been dealing with PFAS for years and years and years. They're living off of 5-gallon water jugs, right? They're washing their dishes, they're brushing their teeth, they're mixing their baby formula, they're watering their plants with 5-gallon water jugs. So this summer, this news about $125 million to address PFAS contamination is really a testament to those folks who have been tirelessly advocating. And, so want to say first and foremost, thank you to them.
Absolutely. And we've talked about this from on the show. We've had Katie Rosenberg on before to talk about what they've been able to do in Wausau. So, but as you said, so going back to the money that's now been allocated with this budget, it's kind of vague then as far as how it's going to be sent, even though there's money allocated towards it.
Yeah. So again, as you mentioned, the good news, $125 million to address PFAS. I think the sticking point here is that what Republicans ended up passing through the Joint Finance Committee was a little bit different than what the governor proposed. So the governor...
when does that happen?
So the governor had proposed $106 million for PFAS, less than 125. But the key piece here is that he proposed staffing and structure for how this funding could be distributed. And so this $125 million, great number, really excited. It's going to begin to address PFAS, although we know it's going to cost a lot more in the long run to clean up all the contamination. It was allocated into a trust fund that is sitting with the Joint Finance Committee until legislation passes that determines how that funding can be distributed and into local communities. So that's where things get a little bit complicated. What exactly should that legislation look like? Right now, there is a bill on the table that includes many exciting pieces, but also some key challenges. So the funding is there. The plan for how to get it out the door isn't quite baked.
Okay. And so what does the bill then that's been introduced look like, or what does that all entail?
So it includes a lot of good things,
Okay.
first of all. And we're encouraged by Senator Wimberger, Senator Coles, Representative Mursaw, and Representative Swearingen are the legislators leading on this legislation. And we're very encouraged that they, from the start, said, we're going to work with folks and try to get this to a place where the governor can sign it.
Now, because all three of those are Republicans.
All Republicans. Yep. And representing very, very contaminated districts.
Yeah, exactly.
So the SB 312 as currently drafted includes a program for getting grants out to municipal drinking water systems. Also homeowners on private wells. That's a key piece, right? A third of Wisconsinites rely on private drinking water for their source. So grants to them for folks who are not responsible but dealing with contamination in their private wells. Also includes some really exciting pieces related to pilot projects and research into the Mississippi River, the Wisconsin River, the Bay of Green Bay, and assistance for testing. The bad news, the bad piece of this bill, the poison pill, as we're calling it, the polluter loophole, is a piece that speaks to limitations on the DNR. So there's a section of the bill that would undermine the DNR's authority to test, begin remediation, and hold polluters accountable. We are really concerned about how that undermines Wisconsin's spills law, which is a more than 40-year-old tool.
Which is also going through the courts right now, isn't it?
Wisconsin spills law has been the subject of litigation for years and years because groups like Wisconsin Manufacturers and Commerce have fought tooth and nail against it. It is our most important environmental tool here in Wisconsin. It requires anyone who discharges a hazardous substance into our environment to report that discharge to the Department of Natural Resources, and then ensures that they have the authority to test to understand the full scale of that contamination, begin remediation, and hold polluters accountable. And so this bill, including limitations on that authority, is really concerning and a non-starter for us because it would undermine all long-term remediation efforts.
So it's basically, because I think we had someone who was representing the law firm that was fighting. I think there is a lawsuit right now talking about this. And so we had someone, I forgot what the name of his organization was. And I forgot. Pregnancy brain. We're blaming it on that. And he was saying exactly everything that you just said, but it was going to go through the law. Like this is before the Supreme Court race. And I don't know what the update on that lawsuit is, but are you saying, so with this bill, if this were to get passed, then it basically overrides what that lawsuit is about?
Well, the at the end of the day, the total impact is a little bit to be determined. Okay. We don't know exactly how things would play out, but restrictions on where the bill would specifically implicate Chapter 292 of Wisconsin statute, which is our spills law, and speaks to limitations on where the DNR could test for PFAS and which PFAS we could enforce action around.
Got it.
Which is really concerning when we're talking about a class of 9,000 to 12,000 chemicals that we're just beginning to learn about, tied to challenges getting pregnant, high cholesterol, birth defects, testicular cancer. We need flexibility to work to understand the full scale of contamination. So it's a little bit to be determined if this bill moved forward as it's currently drafted, how exactly it would harm the spills law, but we know that it would chip away at it, and we just can't afford to do that.
Absolutely. We're talking to Peter Burress, who is the government affairs
manager.
I just lost your government affairs manager for Wisconsin Conservation Voters. And so if this doesn't get passed, like if that actually is a poison pill for Governor Evers and he were to veto this, does that mean that, again, going back to the money that's been allocated in the budget, it would just sit there? Or are these two things kind of tied as far as how that money will get used is tied to this bill getting passed?
Yeah, we're certainly worried it would sit there,
okay,
and not benefit communities. Again, that's another kind of it's a little bit to be determined. But I am cautiously optimistic that we are going to get this bill to a place where we can all get behind it. Because at the end of the day, I think there's a lot of common ground around the need to just get funding out the door to municipal drinking water systems and private well owners. So I'm hopeful that the leaders on this legislation will not, will be responsive to the feedback they're hearing from impacted community members across the state, environmental advocates, public health advocates.
And so what else is like not missing from the bill, but just in general, because it feels like there's two parts so much of when it's addressing PFAS. It's prevention, which I feel like is kind of going to the spills law, and like how do we continue to alter how companies who use forever chemicals in the products that they make from those getting into the water in the first place versus the idea of cleanup and treatment once they're already in the water. And so it sounds like a lot of effort so far is more on the latter versus the former. And so as part of what Wisconsin conservation voters doing is like on both sides, or is there efficiencies on focusing on one versus the other?
So right now with this bill on the table, we're focused on how do we get this bill to a place where we're just getting funding out the door so that when folks go to drink the water coming out of their tap, they can know that it's safe to drink. But there are, some other key pieces of this work more broadly. Education, right? We know that more than 120 communities across Wisconsin have detected PFAS. We're here in Waukesha County, the city of Pewaukee, the village of Pewaukee have detected in levels that exceed the Department of Health Services health advisories. Migwanago, I just heard about a daycare in Oconomowoc that has exceeded Department of Health Services hazard index. Lots of other communities that have detected at levels that are low, but everything we're learning about these chemicals are the way they bioaccumulate in the body makes them very, very dangerous. So any level long term, we need to be getting them out of our environment. So just education around what folks need to know.
I'm going to cut you off because we have to go to a break, but I want to keep talking about exactly that. Is what Wisconsin I'm struggling today. Conservation voters is focused on specifically with PFAS, and so we'll cover that when we come back, but also broader other initiatives that are going on this year. Our guest is Peter Burress, who's a government affairs manager for Wisconsin Conservation Voters. If you have any questions for him, 844-967-2789. He'll be here for the next segment, and we're also still taking your jokes for National Tell a Joke Day. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
simple adjective. No shoes, no shirt, no shoes. You didn't hear that. Sort of a mental typo.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair, and we are here with Peter Burress, who's the Government Affairs Manager of Wisconsin Conservation Voters. Before we get back to our conversation about PFAS, we got some jokes?
We do. It is National Joke Telling Day, so make sure you share it with us. You can call and or text at 844-967-2789. Our friend Greg is on the line. Good morning, Greg.
Good morning. Good morning, Jane. Good morning, Kristen. Good morning, Peter. Peter, we know each other well from Carroll University.
Oh, wow.
Greg, you know everybody.
Yep. So I have a couple jokes for you. I'm actually down by the river too, getting ready for Riverside Rhythms in downtown Waukesha to start. But I have a couple jokes. So here are my jokes. Two blind guys walked into a bar. Ouch. And I'm blind, so I can say that one. And then did I ever tell you about my broken pencil?
You did not.
Oh, why should I? There's no point to it anyway.
All right, Greg.
Greg,
Yes,
very
yes.
good. Very, very good. Bravo.
Peter, good to hear from you again. Hope you're doing well, and hope we can talk soon.
Thanks for the call, Greg, as always.
Have a great day.
That was pretty good.
That was pretty good.
All right, Peter, do you have any jokes? It's okay if you don't.
No pressure.
I was trying to think a good dad joke. Well, first of all, Greg, great to hear your voice. And we should get together for coffee. Did this one come up already? What did the snail say while riding on the back of a turtle?
No.
Whee!
Do you think a snail's slower than a turtle?
Yes.
I think so too.
I think
Well,
so,
they
too.
cover less ground.
It takes longer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
All right. So going back to the question I had asked before the commercial break, I feel like there's two parts of PFAS and dealing with it. It's like the prevention of and then the treatment of. And we were talking first about education and that being a major pillar for Wisconsin conservation voters of just people knowing what it is, how to deal with it. But what are some of the other things as far as whether it's the money that's already been allocated or future plans, policies, projects to address this in Wisconsin?
Yeah, so the other two big pieces I think about here are disposal and phase out. So there's a lot of questions about what is the best way once we're filtering out PFAS from our drinking water systems, what's the best way to dispose of them and destroy them so that they're not bioaccumulating in our bodies and in the environment. So a lot of research that needs to be done on that front, and Wisconsin should really be a leader on that front. We could be, right? We could be leading the nation on what to do about these toxic forever chemicals. But the other big piece is phase out, right? And prevention, stopping these chemicals from ever getting into our environment in the first place. So Minnesota just passed one of the strongest phase out bans in the nation. Of course,
More
they did,
Minnesota envy.
Yes. We could do the same thing, right? We need to phase out the use of these chemicals in non-essential non-essential use of these chemicals.
Is there a replacement for them? Like, because we talk sometimes about plastics, and like we've interviewed people who are finding different ways and to make plastic, and so that it can compost easier or whatever. Is there even or work being done to have a way to create products that are water resistant but don't have to use these chemicals? Or is that what you mean by phase out? Or just not putting these chemicals in things that don't need them?
Yeah, not putting these chemicals in things that don't need them, and relying on other options. So we are seeing PFAS-free products coming onto the market. We want to ensure that they're not just using different PFAS that we don't yet know.
Is this like the fat-free branding when it's like got a bunch of sugar in it? When it's like
it is.
We just made it under the radar to get away with putting this as a advertising tool.
Yeah, we can't be playing whack-a-mole with these different problems, right? So long term, we want to make sure that that companies aren't endangering our communities with chemicals that they don't really know anything about and how they impact us.
Anything else? What should people know that they can do or they could be doing as far as either advocacy or even their own like safety and health when it comes to PFAS in their communities?
Yeah, well, so Department of Health Services has great resources on how to make sure that the water coming out of your own tap is safe to drink. If there are levels of PFAS in your municipal drinking water system in your private well, some action steps there. I do recommend going to conservationvoters.org. We've got ways to take action right on our website. This is the moment to be taking action on this legislation, Senate Bill 312. We've heard that they want to move it to the floor of the Senate and the Assembly in September. So changes are happening right now. So, call your legislators, ask them to remove the polluter loophole from Senate Bill 312, and ensure that this funding can get out the door.
And Peter, that actually makes a difference, doesn't it? If you call.
It sure does. Yep. And my experience lobbying on this issue is that legislators across the board are hearing the concern. And so to the extent, it is important for them to hear that there's this one piece that is really a poison pill and that we need to remove it to make sure that communities across the state are benefiting from this funding.
In the conversation, as much as you can tell us, as someone who is a lobbyist and lobbying for this on behalf of this bill, when you talk to, as you said, the 3 Republicans who are really spearheading this, are they receptive? Like, do they hear the concerns about the poison pill?
I'm certainly encouraged by the conversations.
Okay, that's great.
And I think that I suspect they're hearing a lot of the same thing from different groups. The only group that I know that was lobbying in favor of this poison pill.
Let me guess. The WMC.
It was WMC. Yeah.
Shocker.
So
big shock.
So we have the people power needed to get something good done here, I think.
Well, that is great to hear. I'm so happy to meet you in person. Thank you for coming in. Peter Burress is the Government Affairs Manager for Wisconsin Conservation Voters. We will link information for that bill if you would like to learn more about it and contact your representative about it. Thanks for coming in today.
Thanks, Kristen.
All right, when we come back, John Russell will be here to talk about his experience at a Trump rally and the very genuine conversations he had. It was the inverse of a Jordan Klepper video. And if you have some jokes, we're still taking them. 844-967-2789. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
In a straw hat with their arms out in a cornfield. That is a scarecrow.
Hello, hello. You guys hear me?
It can even be pressed into counterfeit pills that resemble prescription medications. Just 2 milligrams, about the size of a few grains of sand, could potentially be lethal. This isn't an ad to scare you, but it is an ad to make you think twice. Get the facts. Go to realdealonfentanyl.com. This message is brought to you by the Ad Council.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And
We are polarized. There is no doubt about it. But I came to this Trump rally on a hunch. I've poured drinks at a Rust Belt dive bar for the last year, and when your county votes for Trump and the bartender looks like I do, people kind of assume that you're on the same page. But sometimes you actually are. So here's my hunch. For all the focus on culture war issues, the working class on the left and the right have a lot more in common than we're led to believe.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am Kristen Bry. She is Jane Metnair, and that was the opening segment from a new video from our friend of the show, John Russell, and More Perfect Union that was put out a week ago, 2 weeks ago, that I thought was very enlightening. It was not as hilarious as a Jordan Klepper going to a Trump rally, but it was. I mean, it was funny, but it wasn't. You weren't making a joke out of the people you were talking to, like he typically does. And sometimes you want to see both. And so, welcome back to the show, John Russell. It's so good to see you.
Hey, thanks for having me on.
Yeah, and I guess my first question is for people who are listening and not watching the show right now. How would you describe what you look like, since you said when you look like me?
Generic white guy with a mullet.
So as if you've not heard John on our show before, you don't follow him on social media at Hey John Russell, you should. But he is an Upper Ohio Valley guy. He's on TikTok and Instagram. He makes great videos. He's the author of The Holler, which is an Appalachian based independent media for the fed up working class. You work in conjunction sometimes with More Perfect Union, and which is another organization that does a lot of media around working class issues and problems. And you guys work together on this video for you to go to a Trump rally. Where was the Trump rally?
This was in Erie, Pennsylvania. And
okay.
Yeah, thanks for nailing my intro there. There's a lot of hobbies.
There's multiple hats.
You forgot my whittling. I like to carve wood.
So I guess were you always planning on going to the rally and then teamed up with More Perfect Union? Did they ask you to go?
Yeah. So first of all, working with More Perfect Union has been really great. If listeners aren't following them, it's worth a follow. But
yeah,
we went up to this rally based on a hunch. I worked in a Rust Belt dive bar for a year. I moved bars to a slightly nicer place.
Oh, you moved bars?
I did. I know, it's an upgrade. I actually have to use sweet vermouth now, which would have gotten you laughed out of my prior establishment. But from working in this bar, I mean, I grew up in the Ohio Valley. And if you don't know about the Ohio Valley, it's one of the regions that's experienced the biggest political shift out of anywhere in the country. And it went from labor, union, Democrat voting to in the tank for Trump. And when you're working in a dive bar, it's just unavoidable to, talk politics, and I can't help myself anyway. So here I am working in this bar. I'm very left-leaning. I didn't make any bones about that. And I was talking to a lot of people who really love Donald Trump, and it went surprisingly well. So that was the hunch we took up to this Trump rally, and decided to see if we could have those kind of conversations online. And we got some pretty interesting answers.
And you did. Was this your first Trump rally you've ever gone to? I would imagine you maybe have gone to ones in the past.
Yeah. No, this was the first one.
Okay. And so I guess what were you expecting? Because like you said, it's not like you're new to these types of conversations because you've been having them in your bar. But I guess what were you expecting versus what did you actually experience going?
What we got out of that rally is what I expected going in, really. But, that wasn't surprising just because I grew up in areas that are very similar to Erie. The Rust Belt has interesting politics, and Donald Trump, the one thing he's really good at, besides committing crimes, is sensing where the public is and where there's discontent and how to kind of harness that. And he honed in on the Rust Belt. But, I expected to go up there and have conversations about, labor unions and, fighting on class-based issues together. And that's a lot of what we got. But, we didn't see that represented in a lot of the interviews from people going to these rallies.
Yeah. And I think that's what I was surprised with when I watched it was, I think in your intro, you kind of say the what divides the working class on the left versus the right. And I think so much of the conversations you had, at least what made it to the video, are the qualms or the frustrations are not that different from what you hear from a lot of working class people, no matter what their politics are, right? And then there's just this like how you choose to align and who you think can actually fix that. But I guess, what do you think coming out of this differentiates working class left versus working class right folks?
Honestly, this might sound like an odd answer. I think the only thing that's really responsible for the massive division that we all feel and this massive polarization is the fact that we live in an environment, all of us across the political spectrum, of engineered division. Because engineered division is profitable. When you have both sides hating each other, there's a lot of clicks to be had. There's a lot of ads to be sold. You can run, two political parties solely based on the issues that divide us. And that can, come to define your entire politics without anybody having to address the issues that we're united on. The fact that half of the country couldn't deal with a surprise medical expense without, being pushed into financial ruin. Those are things that unite us. But the space to talk about that, in our culture doesn't produce as many clicks, doesn't sell as many ads, doesn't quite fit into the media ecosystem the way we have it set up. So, now I've rambled and forgotten your initial question, but we're all kind of a product of this engineered division.
Well, I think the question was, which I think you kind of answered it, but I also feel like there's probably still more to say, is like, what really fundamentally do you think is the difference between working class people, working poor, who then, but ideologically, they are either right versus left. And so you just said like there probably is more that actually does unite them, or that should unite them as far as the issues that they care about, but they're not. And so it's like, what can you think that the actual differences are of why, if you are someone who makes 30 grand a year, less than 30 grand a year, what has been the pattern in all the work that you've done where you feel like someone gravitates towards Trump or gravitates towards Bernie? Or somewhere in between.
So we all have, it's kind of like we can shop for our own political opinions. I mean, the landscape of media choices, you can tune in to your choice of media that'll give you a red or blue pool noodle, and then you take your pool noodle out and you clobber the other side with it, right? And that's kind of the division that we're seeing today. And you could say that's the culture wars, right? A lot of the conversation in response to this video has been, all right, do we fight the class war or do we fight the culture war? But to me, they're both inseparable. And that's the large point that I took coming out of this rally. If you're only focusing on culture war issues, what you get is permanent division, which feels like what we're in right now. But if you only focus on class war without, defending people's right to be who they are, what most people would call culture war issues, then the unity that you need to have as a class of people, and I take a broad definition with working class. If you have to get up and go to work in the morning to survive, in my book, that makes you working class anymore, especially with, wealth inequality, how it is right now. But one can't happen without the other, right? I think class is what we all share in common. We all have to go to work in the morning to survive. And the culture war, to me, just boils down to, do you respect the freedom of people that are different than you? And I think in these conversations at the rally, to me, they made it seem possible to recenter our politics on class issues, the things that we share in common. And you might hear a lot of crazy stuff, a lot of intense stuff from the Trump folks, but when you put them to it that way, do you respect people's freedom to be different than you, to be who they are? That goes over well, right? But what party or what major media organization is really arguing for something like that? We haven't really had it tested at a large scale, and I think we should.
And it is interesting that you brought that up, because I was reading the comments, and I did see a lot of that of like, even if we agree on some of the class stuff, I'm never going to be able to get over the fact that they're racist or whatever. And we had a question from one of our listeners, Price. He sent this in last week, and he said, just a quick note, when John is on next week, I watched the interview and was impressed by his questions and the answers. However, the one aspect I'm interested in is the racial resentment angle. A big driver of Trump voters was sticking it to the other. And I'm wondering if he asked about that to the people he spoke to.
Yeah, that's another conversation. We're going to make this a series. And I think, we have had so many years of really, right-wing propaganda has been very massive. It's been 50 years. It's been financed by billions of dollars. It's 24/7 and on every device. So they've got, millions of Americans tuning in 8 hours a day or hours and hours every single day, right? I think the progress that you can expect to make to reverse all of that is going to take longer than a conversation in line with people at the rally. Do I think it's possible, though? Yes. A lot of the, resenting the other, when you really start to drive at that in a conversation, to me, it's obvious that those kind of opinions, I don't think they're really coming from within people. I think people are getting them from, media networks. They're being suggested to people. Hey, the economic anxiety you feel is because all the people different than you. That's kind of what's been whispered out over all of these years. But in these face-to-face conversations, nobody's as bad as their worst political moment. And I think there's, opportunity to have those conversations. And I hope to do that in the next versions of these. Yeah.
Well, if you're going to keep doing this, I'm excited to see that, because, as we have indictment after indictment after indictment after indictment, all four that have come down in succession, 91 counts, and poll after poll after poll, there are people who do not care, right? And so we'll play the one clip as far as, someone who voted for Trump despite knowing
the way he is.
Capitalism's not the problem. It's been corrupted to such a level, just like people think all the politicians are corrupted. But it's corrupted at the highest levels of these corporations, like you said, being owned. Instead of 200 of them, you're down to 4. That's massive control.
You think somebody like Trump with the billions in the business, I mean, we're talking about really large monopolies here. He's more in their peer group.
Yeah, I agree. You're right. Right.
He has a financial interest to do that kind of policy.
I always even consider Trump even like a crony capitalist. He's not perfect. You know what I mean? He was a capitalist guy, and everybody always read where he would eminent domain against take the lady, kick her out of her house for all that stuff. Yeah, that's falls into that. Like I said, I don't know. I come to a Trump rally. Doesn't mean I think he's the greatest guy.
So Jane picked that one out, and I think it's this, despite everything, despite the fact that he is a capitalist, that he is a millionaire, billionaire,
that he had a terrible track record of stiffing people,
that his actual track record beyond even the crimes, but actually how he stands up for the class that you're talking to, and that largely supports him. Like, the evidence just isn't there. And so we have to go to a break, but when we come back, I'd love to talk to you about why you think, like, what is it? Like, in the conversations you've had, what is it that it's this guy? Not that that's the Republican Party, that it's him. And if there's anything that's going to, besides death or a stroke, that would ever change their mind about not having allegiance to this guy. So our guest is John Russell, who is the author of The Holler. You can find him at Hey John Russell. He'll be back on the other side of the break. You got a joke, man?
Oh, I sure do. Where's the king keep his armies?
I don't know.
In his sleeveys.
All right, we'll be right back. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
We belong to the drinking class. Monday through Friday, man, we bust our backs. If you want us.
A perfect day starts with perfect breakfast. Start your day with Brunch It Up. Our experts are serving up the ultimate brunch experience. Our menu is loaded with inventive dishes from chicken and waffles to cinnamon roll pancakes. Try unique cocktails like Brunch Bloody Mary with house-infused vodka. Come brunch it up over bottomless mimosas or a midday pick-me-up. Or with the whole family for an unforgettable Sunday brunch. Brunch It Up in Milwaukee, Brookfield, or Cedarburg from 7 to 3 on weekdays and 8 to 3 on weekends. Let's brunch it up.
Hey, this is Lindsay Kindred at 540 WAUK The Shaw. At Civic Media, we love our local communities and want to share your stories. Submit your local event and we'll let our listeners know. Email me, Lindsay Kindred, at info@civicmedia.us. That's info@civicmedia.us.
The Maggie Dawn Show.
I would be remiss if I didn't say that some of what we do in government always is political. It has policy impacts. It has political impacts. But if your raison d'etre and your organizing principle is that my guy wins and your guy loses, the entire country suffers. That is not our call to serve. That is not what we raise our hand and say an oath.
The Maggie Dawn Show, Monday through Friday at 6 p.m. on your local Civic Media radio station and on the Civic Media app.
The Civic Media Network of radio stations across Wisconsin. We are your hometown radio, refreshed.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Mainly sunny skies this afternoon with a high of 81. Winds out of the southwest, 8 to 15 miles an hour. Scattered thunderstorms likely tonight. Lows level off around 63. Cloudy skies expected. Sunshine mixed with clouds at times tomorrow. Scattered thunderstorms likely. Daytime highs approaching 73. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 70.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I'm Kristen Bry. She is Jane Madnair, and our guest is John Russell, who is the author of The Holler, and he makes online videos, which is how he and I originally met on TikTok and Instagram, about the working class and the fed up working class specifically. And we wanted to bring him on today to talk about his initial many to come, but video going to Trump rallies, having sincere conversations with Trump voters about what actually we can agree on, what the differences actually are. It was posted August 9th. I'll link the video to today's show notes so you can go back and watch it because it is very good. And the question I posed before the break was, you know, this kind of phenomenon that so many people I think have are like question of like, how is there still this many people who, despite the indictments, despite the track record, despite the losing record, are still Trump or bust? And so in your conversations, not that you're going to get them to flip parties, but what is it about him? And do you think there's anything that actually would get them to walk away from this guy?
Yeah, I was thinking about your question in the break, and I'm surrounded by friends who love pro wrestling. And, I've always kind of... Do you love pro wrestling, John? Oh, big time. Yeah. Every Monday, in Wheeling, West Virginia, we gather in a garage and we watch Monday Night Raw. But, then I yesterday, if you haven't looked it up, go look up the clips of Donald Trump and WWE. Right. And I think it kind of says a lot about his appeal because his rallies are kind of like that. I mean, Look, talking about Donald Trump is hard because, on the one hand, he's a total joke. And on the other hand, he's the most serious thing that's a real threat to everybody, including, the most marginalized people first. But I think what it is about, Donald Trump, if he looks good at all, if it's possible for him to look good, it's only in relation to how everything else is going. And how is everything else going? Mitch McConnell and Dianne Feinstein, they're dying on live TV. I mean, our leaders are very old. We have incredible problems. You couldn't, New York City was orange. Hawaii is on fire. One man lost $200 billion and was still the world's second richest man. And this at a time when most of the country, really feels like they're not getting ahead. So, when you look out at that landscape, you're not really thinking about politics a lot because you got other stuff going on in your life. And you see some guy out there who power bombed Vince McMahon and, was our former president. If you want a different direction, I'm pretty sure that you're going to get something different than what we've been expecting if you go with Donald Trump. So I think a lot of that is his appeal. Now, unfortunately, millions of people walking into those rallies, whether they know it or not, are empowering a person with an agenda that'll, eventually come for us all, starting with, the powerless first. But what do I see that could possibly stop that? This was one of the main focuses of what we talked about up there. And I think it's the new labor movement energy and the new media, honestly, that we're seeing on TikTok. I mean, let's start with the labor movement first. The kind of goal was to go up to this Trump rally and say, hey, do you support UPS workers winning $30 billion by standing together against one of the largest corporations? The answer from the Trump rally attendees, yes. Do you want to see Trump on a picket line? Yes. Do you want to see all politicians, supporting this new labor movement that we have going? Yes. So in there, I could see a large change to our politics. And, a lot of it feels like it's set in stone, but Donald Trump was never supposed to be president. Neither was Barack Obama. These things can change overnight. And, historically, when we have won really large progressive things for society, those have been built on a foundation of organized workers who, could elect people that stood with organized workers. And forever, there was never a question about what party did that. It's kind of a shame to say, but there is a question about that now.
Yeah.
But with so much new energy in the labor movement, I think that's the way forward. And a lot of the people in line also share that.
Which I
passionate.
Find,
I like that was a great answer.
It was a great answer. But again, I just find it so interesting. The hero of the right is Ronald Reagan, who was the one who began the deunionizing push.
Yep. And, it's interesting because a lot of the interviewees we talked to, they were trashing Ronald Reagan. They were trashing Dick Cheney. We talked to a guy who worked for Halliburton. I mean, a lot of these figures on the right, Donald Trump hijacked that party. I mean, the Wall Street had a favorite party there. Then Trump came in and took it over and talked about how free trade sucks. And a lot of people said, yeah. So, I think there's a lot of very strong opinions that are loosely held. And like I said, nothing in politics is set in stone. And I can see it changing and shifting a lot.
All right. Well, should we end on some jokes?
Let's go.
Let's end on some jokes. You can rate them, John. What do we get from the listeners?
All right, here we go. John, did you hear about the new car made of paper?
No.
It was stationary.
Why did
why did the bed go to court?
Why?
It was about a pillowcase.
Oh, very nice. I think I like that one. Let's go with that one over the first. Yeah.
Okay. This is a very specific, not sure if this is the joke that you're looking for. Donald Trump.
The best of all.
And then there was one snarky one about the superintendent of schools here in Waukesha, which we'll just let that one go.
Okay. You want to hear the only one I remember as a kid that was probably inappropriate for me to know as a kid anyways.
Oh, great.
So I was on swim team. I was a pretty good swimmer as a kid. And there was a joke that was like, there was a blonde, a brunette, and a redhead that were all swimming against each other. And it was a 50-meter breaststroke. And they all jumped in. And the blonde got first. No, the redhead got first. The brunette got second. And the blonde was way, way behind. And she got out of the pool and she said, well, that's not fair. They use their arms.
All the way through the joke, I was sweating. I was hot. I was sweating.
You can imagine me at like 11 telling that joke, especially.
Did you even get it? Did you even get it when you were 11?
I remembered it enough to get it. So. All right. Well, John, thank you so much. We're going to have you back because we didn't even get to an East Palestine update because I know you're working on that. But we appreciate so much of the work that you do on the ground with your independent reporting. Follow at Hey John Russell. Subscribe to The Holler. Thank you for your work. We'll talk to you soon, bud.
Y'all are the best. See you, Wisconsin.
All right. Well, that was a fun show. We'll bring the jokes back tomorrow, maybe, if we get some more. But thanks for everyone who listened and joined. We'll be back tomorrow at 10. This has been As Goes Wisconsin.
Well, won't you be right now? Bye-bye.